Yes.
I think I can see two challenges here as far as the Iran in general is concerned, and the filtration of the news to the world and bringing the crimes which were committed during the 80s, and particularly what happened during the summer of 1988 in Iran. That was concealed for a long time. The world community was totally unaware of what was going on. Now, I see that as one challenge that it has to be addressed, in my opinion, and thankfully the Boroumand Foundation and noble lawyers are capable of doing that, and they are doing that very well. On the other hand, I can see that the ICC and the Rome Statute is facing obstacles, and basically there are problems as far as the international legal jurisdictions are concerned. Now, what does the panel think about possibly a people's court of law? A court of law which was exercised by Bertrand Russell as Russell Tribunal, for example, which in that case I believe that we can meet at least one of the challenges, and that challenge being that we can bring these crimes into the world scene, and we can make sure that at least the world is aware of what's happened in Iran, and particularly during 1988, and we can basically base the foundation on the facts which have been gathered and collected by Boroumand Foundation and other lawyers, and basically base the foundation on a truth and a truth commission and a tribunal, which is basically organized in a people's court rather than any court which has any jurisdiction or any statutes of such. And I think that maybe, in my opinion, be a starting point to start addressing at least one of these challenges. What does the panel think about that?
Great. I'm going to throw back to the panel now to pick and choose which of those questions you want to respond to. Thanks, Wolfgang.
Okay. Starting with Kaveh, I was proposing a method. The method was scanning through all different levels, through all different mechanisms, and then thinking what can be done by us, by the lawyers, by the victims, by the NGOs. And so I ruled out some measures in the situation of Iran 1988, which might be applicable in other situations. What I wanted to say about Alien Tort Claims Act and about universal jurisdiction is this is boring. You know, everybody did it, and so until the venues were blocked, and they are severely blocked. Maybe not in this case. Maybe there is still a chance. But so my demand is: don't be so boring. Be more innovative. Be more creative. Also, because this to be so boring allows the other side to be prepared, to be better prepared, and so we always have to be one or more steps ahead. So that's the one thing, and of course, it's still worth to bring such cases. I'm doing that every day. We're doing it every day, and the only question is: can a legal case bring a new momentum to a situation like Iran 1988? And then I say, look, even what you just proposed, the People's Tribunal, can be a better solution for this particular moment, Iran 1988. But take it serious. Take it as a legal intervention. Do it as the women did for the tribunal for the so-called comfort woman, the forced prostitutes forced by the Japanese army. So what they did, they built up a legal record. They worked for years to build up this legal analysis, and then they used it in courts. That might also be a solution. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
I think Dr. Lahichi is probably best placed to answer Roya's question about ongoing discrimination in Iran, but as a matter of international law, that's certainly being excluded from jobs, for example, on the grounds of your political affiliation or former criminal convictions, is potentially discrimination and could be actionable internationally, but that's a question for Iranian law more than anything else for those still within Iran. The idea about the People's Court and the Truth Commission, I think, is an excellent one. And I think there was a meeting in The Hague last year of Iranians to discuss transitional justice mechanisms. There are a range. Prosecution is just one. And truth commissions have been incredibly important in documenting the truth of what happened and giving the victims a voice in the same way that I think the Boroumand Foundation's work is doing in another sense. Those sorts of bodies are generally considered, though, post-regime change. So whether it would be established within Iran would require significant political change for that to take place. But I think that will probably be discussed more in more depth in the next session.
More time for translation. از فردای تصویب اعلامیه جهانی حقوق بشر در 1948 کمیسیون حقوق بشر سازمان ملل تشکیل شد برای بررسی تشکیل دادگاه جزایی بین المللی و 50 سال کار این کمیسیون طول کشید تا بالاخره اساسنامه روم در 50 سال بعد 1998 به تصویب رسید و در اون جلسات هم من بسیار جلسات بودم. اون اساسنامه‌ای که NGO-ها می‌خواستن به تصویب نرسید برای اینکه هیچ دولتی نمی‌خواست این دادگاه تشکیل بشه. الان هم که من دارم باهاتون صحبت می‌کنم از 5 عضو دائمی سازمان ملل شورای امنیت 3 عضوش عضو دادگاه جزایی بین‌المللی نیستن. ما حقوقدانا این مسائل رو میدونیم.
So since the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted in 1948, there have been sorry, I've lost my notes now. It took some 50 years, and there was a UN committee that was formed to discuss the formation of the ICC, and it took some 40 years for the Rome Statute and the ICC to be formed, and I was participating in many of these meetings, and unfortunately many points of views of the NGOs were ignored because many of the states were against the formation of ICC, and I must say that to date there are still 5 countries, yes, or 3, sorry.
Permanent members.
3 permanent members of the Council, the Security Council, that are not members of, they are not signatories to the ICC.
مسلمه که راه حل سیاسیه و این راه حل های حقوقی قضایی جانشین راه حل سیاسی نمیشه. ولی فکر نکنید که با انتقال قدرت مسئله عدالت خواهی و دادخواهی تمام میشه. ما از جهنم شاه تو جهنم بدتر جمهوری اسلامی افتادیم. باید به این دوران گذار و دوران انتقال توجه داشت. ما در کشورهای آمریکای لاتین میبینیم که وقتی rapport de force، وقتی که موازنه قوا به سود نیروهای مترقی نیست، ناگزیر میشن در ابتدا بیان عفو بدن و تمام جنایتکاران عفو کنن. به خصوص در آرژانتین بعد که مدتی میگذره و خب کم کم نهادهای دموکراتیک دادگستری مستقل تو کشور پای میگیره، راههای دیگه پیدا میکنند که الان ژنرال های 90 ساله که یه دفعه عفو شدن 2 مرتبه دارن تو آرژانتین محاکمه میشن، این دفعه به خاطر بچه ربایی، برای اینکه بچه های قربانی ها رو اینا به عنوان بچه های خودشون رفته بودن. بنابراین باید این کارهایی که بنیاد برومند و دیگران دارن میکنن بشود برای دوران انتقالی، برای اون دورانی که در ایران هم دادگستری باشه و اگر نشود ما از تمام مکانیزم های بین المللی استفاده میکنیم، فشار میاریم. کمیته حقوق بشر هفته گذشته تشکیل شد در ارتباط با میثاق بین المللی حقوق مدنی سیاسی، ما اونجا بودیم و 2 روز تمام فشارها را آوردیم که این پرونده ها روی هم تلمبار بشه و به مجمع عمومی سازمان ملل بره و مجمع عمومی سازمان ملل ناگزیر بشه. من نمیدونم، من تاریخ نمیتونم بدم، من اعتقاد مذهبی هم ندارم، اعتقاد به امام زمان و مسی هم ندارم من نمیدونم کی میشه، چه که اتفاق میفته، ولی باید این مسیر، یعنی این مکانیزم هایی که ما حقوقدانا میشناسیم، رجال سیاسی هم کار خودشون میکنن، مردم ایران هم کار خودشون میکنن، ولی این مسائل مانعت الجمع نیست و این اتفاقها باید بیفته و از طریق دادگاه جزایی بین المللی اگر ما نتیجه نمیگیریم، از طریق شورای امنیت میتونیم نتیجه بگیریم، همچنین که در مورد سیرالئون دیدیم، در مورد لیبی دیدیم، در مورد لبنان دیدیم، به صورت دیگه در مورد کامبوج الان میبینیم که یک چیز ملی بین المللی است. در حال تمام این تلاش ها، این کوشش ها، این جمع‌آوری مدارک باید برای اون روز دادرسی فراهم بشه، چه این دادرسی در دوران انتقالی در ایران، چه این دادرسی در نمیدونم اون فردای موعود در صحنه بین‌المللی.
Okay, I'm going to give a gist of that. No political solution is going to be a substitute for legal and judicial solutions. So by transferring power, by regime change, you don't necessarily achieve true justice. We went from basically from frying pan into fire, going from under the Shah period into the Khomeini's Islamic Republic. And we can see that when, if we look at history, in some countries when the balance of power, because of the balance of power was in jeopardy, some countries like Argentina, they gave amnesty to some of their generals and sorry, I'm going back to this. One back, excuse me. I'm saying going back from the Shah to the Islamic Republic, from hell to frying pan into fire. And I think that unless we have a proper judicial system, unless we have proper courts and judiciary, nothing else is going to resolve the problems. For example, in Argentina, many of those generals who were given amnesty later on by different governments were again arrested when they were in their 90s and on different charges. And this time they were arrested on charges of kidnapping children of victims that they had killed. Again, I'm saying that there is the UN, there is the International Covenant on Civil and International Rights, through which we may not have been able to reach solutions, but I think we can reach solutions through other means such as the Security Councils. We lawyers, we do our own things. The politicians do their own things. The people do their own things. But I think even if we fail to get anywhere through these international covenants, there is always the Security Council, which we can use as an example. The examples of Sierra Leone, the examples of Lebanon, the examples of Libya and Cambodia as well. So we really need to focus on the transitional period for the time being, and we use whatever mechanism we can to try and find a way of dealing with this until the day we have a proper judicial system. Now, I don't know if I did you justice or not, but I tried my best.
I think most of the questions have already been answered. So maybe just shortly to say that the idea of a people's tribunal, I think, is really compelling. I think it's really interesting. One issue with that is to maybe work through the issues about witness and victim protection. It would be a real shame if people inside Iran wouldn't be able to participate. So it requires some thought on how best to deal with that aspect. With respect to the other issues, and I'm not going to apologize for the UK law on universal jurisdiction. It's fully flawed. It's 100% flawed. But there are possibilities that we must continue to use. And I'd be happy to talk to you after about that. So People's Court, I think, is a great idea. The other possibilities must all be pursued at the same time. We don't need to choose one option. The issues are too big and too complex.
Great. No, we're going to finish this panel. I'm sorry, because time has galloped away. We're going to move directly into the final panel. I'm going to beg the speakers on that panel if they could maybe keep their comments to 10 or 12 minutes to try and ensure that we are done a little bit after 7 when we have to go to the drinks reception. But please join me in thanking the speakers on